hi, I'm Owlbear Rogue. Welcome to the cave. Today I thought I would look through my vast piles of stolen treasure and share with you some of my favorite magic items. These are objects that I like to sprinkle into my campaigns. They're a ton of fun for my players to find. They create a lot of roleplay opportunities, but they're not mechanically overpowered. They don't make my life too difficult as a DM. Quick disclaimer, I'm human. I take in influences all the time, some conscious, some unconscious. Anyone putting out homebrew content, there's the possibility it's similar to something that already exists. My promise to you is if I know I've been influenced by a person or thing when I'm creating, I will always give credit when I know that it's due. I'll let you know. Thanks for your patience. We're jumping right in with the best of the best, my favorite magic item I've ever created that has added so much fun and intrigue to my games, the Shadow Box. The Shadow Box is a music box. I usually have my players come across it as a random encounter. They'll find a hole in the ground that's full of a blackish ice, and encased in that ice is an ornate music box. The idea is that it's only meant to be accessed by the living. So any attempts as they're investigating to get close enough to breathe warm air onto the ice will quickly melt it, or the touch of a warm living hand will melt it as well. And now they have this music box. And they're going to be suspicious of it. Believe it or not, when you randomly put a really pretty item encased in black ice in their path, they might get ideas about it having some nefarious purpose. These players, they're just so full of suspicion, so untrusting. I don't know how they would ever get that way. Hopefully, even if it gives them the heebie-jeebies, they'll hold on to the object, and you get to decide how you're going to tell them about what it does. Maybe they have identify and you just get to spill all the beans, or they carry it around and figure it out through trial and error. It's pretty complicated though, and they are suspicious of it. So I like to send them a ghost. Just a little friendly haunting. The night after they find the music box, they're visited by the spirit of the creature that made this box. They were a powerful wizard whose wife was murdered. Her restless spirit was wandering somewhere, doing some haunting like you do. And she created the music box to help find her wife, help bring her spirit peace. She's very worried about it being used responsibly. She's the one who tucked it away in that black ice where only the living could find it. And she'll explain to your players that if they're carrying the music box around, it will start to play its tinkly, creepy music box music when in the presence of an undead creature. And the closer they get to the undead creature, the louder that song is going to be. Now, in my world, the way I use it, the undead cannot hear this music. So it's purely a benefit to the players. They get a heads up that somewhere nearby there's an undead creature, but it doesn't give away their position. You can decide that's not the case, and the players need to decide whether it's worth it to carry an object that's going to give them a heads up, but also give them a disadvantage to stealthing around and perhaps let the undead creatures know that they are there as well. That's totally a call you could make. But in my world, the undead can't hear it. It doesn't completely take away my ability to get the players with undead, though. Undead can be invisible, they can be hiding. My players know in my world, undead might not necessarily be unfriendly or unhelpful. I keep them on their toes that way. Something to consider is in this day and age, players make all different kinds of characters, sometimes even undead player characters. So if someone in your party is playing, say, a revenant, this could be a very funny magic item to introduce, but probably not too useful for your party. The person who is undead would just be happily going about their day-to-day lives, while everyone else in the party is constantly being tortured by creepy music box sounds. I'll let you make the call about whether it's worth it for that gag. I love this mostly because I can create such dramatic moments at my table. I have a file with creepy, tinkly music box music, and at any given moment when my players are happily, innocently exploring a new area, I can hit play, let the sound build and build and build until everyone suddenly realizes the creepy music box music is playing. And you can hear the butts clench, the eyes go big, they all go, everyone freaks out. They're asking to make perception checks. They're trying to figure out what kind of undead it might be. They're already making traps. It's so dramatic. It always gets a really big rise out of everyone, and they seem to be amused. I know I am absolutely entertained as a DM. I really recommend you take the shadow box and let it haunt your world. The next item on the list is also a little macabre, but very useful for your players. It is the most mechanically significant of all the items on the list. Think carefully about whether you want it at your table. I call it a hag ring. I associate hags with weird eyeball stuff, and I don't think I'm alone there. Hags are into weird eyeball stuff, right? When your player puts on the hag ring, one of their eyes, you can pick which one, turns into a marble and pops out of their head. They can still see out of the marble and control which direction it's looking in. There's obviously a lot of implications here. They can roll it under a door into a next room. They can drop it down in a mysterious hole. They can leave it behind to spy on people. And some people might find those things too overpowered and not want to use it. For me, I love watching players make creative, smart choices. I love giving them opportunities for that and rewarding them for that. I'm not DMing to win Dungeons and Dragons. I enjoy giving them these kinds of objects and seeing what they do with them. Does it mess up my plans sometimes? Yes. But everything they do messes up my plans. That is just the life of a DM. Your plan's gonna get messed up. I think if it's gonna get messed up, it might as well be with a fun magic object that my players can have a really interesting time with. Now, once they take this ring off their finger, their eyeball is going to pop back into their head and become a normal eyeball again. It's not without its risks, though. If this gets destroyed before they take the ring off and it goes back into their head, they've lost an eyeball forever. If someone magically holds onto it and keeps it from going back to where it's supposed to be, they may not get that eyeball back. I also have them roll Constitution saving throws when they're first using this item, because if you imagine seeing normally out of one eye while another eyeball rolls around the world, our brains are really not cut out for processing that kind of information. I can't ride in the back seat of a car without getting sick, much less roll my eyeball around on the floor. So I have them roll Constitution saving throws to see if their lunch stays in their tummy, just as they get used to it. Later on, once they've been doing it for a while, I don't make them do that anymore. If you can handle it, I hope you'll let the hag ring spice up your plans. The next item on my list is one that your party's bard is going to fall in love with. I call it the Diva Belt. When you put on the Diva Belt, a spotlight falls upon you from the heavens. You could be in the middle of a dark cave and all of a sudden, spotlight. And anything that you say comes out in a booming, theatrical voice, as if you'd cast thaumaturgy. There's a lot of different ways your players can use this if they need to get people's attention. The Diva's Belt is the way to do it. I am mostly amused by the Diva's Belt because I like to place this bit of loot in an area that is dangerous, where there's a lot going on. Maybe they find this magic item and they think things aren't going well here. We're in a lot of danger. Maybe this can be helpful. And maybe they just put it on without casting Identify or taking it back to camp to experiment with later. Then all of a sudden, this party who was trying to sneak around has a spotlight. And the words that they say come out in a theatrical, booming voice. I get a kick out of it. They might not love it as much. It's a very flavorful item, and if you have a player who just loves to be the center of attention, this is the item for them. I'm going to give a quick honorable mention to 2 items that are very fun but very simple. One is a tiara that when you put it on makes you look like a fancy dwarven noblewoman. My headcanon for this is there was a dwarven noblewoman who really hated getting dressed up, hated all the time it took to get her fancy robes on and do her makeup and her hair. She had this piece commissioned so that she could be in her pajam jams, all cozy, put her tiara on, and bam, she's ready to go out and hold court. How your players use this tiara that makes them look like a fancy dwarven noblewoman? Well, that's the fun, isn't it? Give it to them and find out. Next is a mug. It's just a hearty mug, looks like it was built for ale, and the handle of it automatically orients in the direction of the nearest tavern. If people are in a wilderness situation, this could be a really useful thing. Or if they're exploring a new big city and they're looking for a place to stay, hey, this will show them where the tavern's at. Again, this one just adds a little bit of flavor, and it could send your party on a long goose chase where they wind up on one side of a mountain. And sure, the tavern's in that direction, but you have to go through a mountain first to get there, or an ocean. It's a small object, but again, a lot of fun. The final item on my list has a special place in my heart because it has a name and a whole personality. It's a small carved horse made out of some kind of beautiful brown stone, maybe a tiger's eye. And this horse can't move or do anything particularly useful, but he has a name, Sebastian, and he can talk. His specialty is engaging in pleasant conversation and giving sound advice. He is a great role-playing tool. Your players can ask him questions. You can learn a little bit more about what they're thinking about, what they're worried about at this point in your story. You can maybe give them a little bit of interesting advice through Sebastian, but for the most part, I try to make him like a magic 8-ball, like very non-committal, very fortune cookie in his advice. He's not giving profound advice. He's not speaking in proverbs. He is giving small talk and very milquetoast, very non-committal, very generalized sound advice. Drop him in someplace and watch your players adopt him and carry him with them for the whole campaign. It'll get them talking, I promise you that. If you couldn't tell by me giggling my way through this whole video, I get a big kick out of all of these magic items, and I have 1,000 different memories attached to each one of different players using them in different wild and crazy ways. I hope that your players will love them and that you'll get a kick out of them too. If you use any of them, oh my goodness, please come back in the comments and let me know. If you enjoy these videos, like, subscribe. It helps me out a lot. I don't promote this channel in any way, so having people organically share these around is what brings people to the cave, and I really appreciate all of you who do that. As always, thank you for exploring the feminine urge to play Dungeons & Dragons with me, Owlbear Rogue.